Your life is not actually your life. Let me explain. I'm sure you have heard people tell you something along the lines of, do not worry about what others think. Your life is your life, and you can do whatever you want with it. In one sense, this message has some truth in it. Surely, you would not want to live under the tyranny of whatever other people expect of you, because then you would essentially be throwing away your individuality completely, especially if you are not similar to the typical person. And yes, it is important to find joy in life, even if that joy comes from an unorthodox place. However, I find that there is another meaning that gets pushed into this expression. When someone says your life is your life, the deeper implication is that you do not owe anyone anything, that you somehow have this fundamental right to your own contents of your experience, and that this right is absolute. This viewpoint troubles me deeply, because you see, if we are being honest, this is simply not true. We never earned the right to live freely. We were only given the ability to live thanks to everyone else, alive or dead. Unless our ancestors had found a way to survive through the great onslaught of history, this hypothetical right to life would not exist at all. If there were no builders, no buildings would be built, and we would still be fighting in the wild. If there were no hunters and no farmers, our species would long be dead. And this goes for the people today as well. We might think that everything sort of works in itself, but in reality we depend on the hard work of other people, so that we can exercise this so-called right to life. You do not actually have the right to live, you have just inherited the convenience to do so. And this means that you have a burden of responsibility to others. You have a burden of responsibility to your parents and your grandparents and all your ancestors. For it is through their choice and not yours that you are alive right now. And so, to put it simply, no, you should not just do whatever you want with your life, in the absolute sense. Of course, everyone has their personal inclinations, and you should absolutely follow those. But it is your moral duty as a man or a woman to use your inclinations and your gifts in accordance with the interests of the people who are responsible for your freedom and your safety. You should indeed strive to make your parents proud. You should strive to make your friends proud. You should be a person who works and provides for all his people. It is perhaps the only real moral duty that you actually have. And this modern nonsense which started back in the 70s, where everyone sort of does whatever they want and you cannot criticize the personal life of others. Of course you can criticize the personal lives of others, and of course others can criticize your personal life too, because the personal, to some extent, is also public. Because what you do in your personal life defines your role in society. And your role in society is not insignificant. You cannot just not care about anything at all regarding other people. Or at least you shouldn't, because you owe them everything. And many great societies of the past have known that and have exercised that. But people today have sort of closed their minds in this liberalistic framework where everyone is this autonomous individual who only has the burden of letting other people do anything they want. And this simply doesn't work, because if the common person, if the majority of people follow this rule, this individualistic framework, what will happen is you will have a society full of arrogant narcissists who simply care about themselves, and nobody is going to do important work that needs to be done unless they are forced to do so. And this is unfortunately the direction that many Western societies have been taking. Just look at young Americans who are constantly complaining about the fact that they simply have to work a 9-to-5 or some regular job. This is preposterous. This has never happened before. People understood that work and contribution to society is necessary, and that you cannot simply live egocentrically all your life, not only for the betterment of society, but also for the betterment of you. A person will never be happy if they live their entire life completely egocentrically. They cannot be happy. We're not wired this way. We're meant to create families and to care for other people. And when the entire society is pathologized in this psychotic way of turning inwards and not looking around you, appreciate what you have, is simply going to lead to a culture that destroys itself. And in order to prevent that, everyone has to start understanding and practicing gratitude, which thankfully a good minority of people have started doing thanks to things like the self-improvement movement and the Stoic movement that has a small resurgence right now, or the Christian movement, especially in Europe, but we need to keep doing it. So the bottom line is, your life is not your life. Life is a thing in itself, and you happen to be lucky enough to have it for a while. So you and I and everyone should be forever grateful for the gift that we have been given.